So Bernie Sanders might have faced his most ridiculous and awful attack ever today. I'm not exaggerating when a piece in the San Francisco Chronicle smeared Bernie more than I've seen in a long, long time at least. It's by Ingrid Seyer-ochi. She's an educator, and she wrote a piece basically comparing Bernie Sanders to the people that went at the Capitol to attack democracy on January 6th. She makes that comparison, or at least wants you to go there, all because he wore a coat and some goddamn mittens and sat there in the cold on Inauguration Day. I'm not making any of that up. The headline of the article says, Senator Sanders is no white supremacist insurrectionist, but he manifests privilege, white privilege, male privilege, and class privilege in ways that my students could see and feel. And then it notes here the actual article headline. That was the Twitter headline. Bernie's mittens, a lesson for San Francisco high school students in subtle white privilege. And the article goes, here's just one quote, but I think it's the crucial one that shows that I don't necessarily think it was her students that thought this, but that this lady thought this, and that this lady was trying to basically implant this view of Bernie, which is absurd, into impressionable young minds. And it notes here, and there, all across our news and social media feeds was Bernie. Bernie memes, Bernie sweatshirts, endless love for Bernie. I puzzled and fumed as an individual as I strove to be my best possible teacher. What did I see? What did I think my students should see? A wealthy, incredibly well-educated and privileged white man showing up for perhaps the most important ritual of the decade in a puffy jacket and huge mittens. Guys, that's madness. Absolute madness. 100%. First of all, this lady should talk. This lady right here has a doctorate from Stanford and other degrees from Stanford. She has degrees from fancier universities than Bernie. And also, Bernie Sanders does not have a PhD. He isn't a doctor. This lady has more educative privilege than Bernie. And let's also be clear, really, that often all of these sorts of arguments erase Bernie Sanders' identity as a Brooklyn-born, working-class Jewish American. He is not an upper-class dude. He might not be poor anymore. He might have done very well for himself because he's a senator and a successful author. But he has true blue working class identity and origin and roots. And people have never forgotten that. And people mock him. They mock his accent, which is a deeply blue collar, working class Jewish New York accent. Like, it's in him. It's in his DNA. This man is not the Monopoly man. This man wore some mittens and a coat because it was cold in the middle of January to an event that was, yes, very important. And Bernie was there to represent, Vermont and his voters and progressives at that crucial moment. And people still want to attack him for it. Like, guys, I don't know what people want from Bernie. Like, if Bernie would have shown up in a very, very fancy outfit, he would have been attacked for being the hypocritical socialist. If he didn't show up at all, they would have attacked him for snubbing Kamala and Joe. If he does show up wearing some mittens and a coat, literally doing nothing to draw attention to himself, literally sitting there watching the events to draw no attention to himself, he got the eyes of millions because we care about Bernie. Bernie didn't make himself the center of attention. The people did. Regular working and middle class people all over the United States made Bernie the spectacle of the moment because it's what they cared about. They didn't care as much about the pomp and circumstance. They cared about a working class guy who they identified with in that moment. Yes, Bernie has elements of white privilege. Yes, Bernie has male privilege. Yes, Bernie has a lot of advantages now as a senator that most Americans don't. But you can't make that moment about that. You can't make that moment about these invisible hierarchies that don't exist in that particular context. All this is yet another attempt, even after he's not running for president anymore, even after he worked harder than anyone to make Kamala Harris and Joe Biden the VP and the president. They still want to smear him and tar and feather him because Bernie Sanders and his genuine fight for the working class terrifies these sort of elite liberals that don't actually want to build a more just, more humane, and more dignified society for the working class. And I bet if she actually really talked to her students, instead of just fuming at them about this, she would understand that.